Olivia, the ice is running low in the west corner, my mother hissed, shoving another serving tray into my hands. And for heaven's sake, fix your hair. You look like a mess. I adjusted my apron over my graduation dress, fighting back tears of frustration. This was supposed to be my celebration, graduating summa cum laude from medical school at 26. Instead, I was playing waitress at my own party while my younger sister Sophia held court with our relatives. Did you hear? Mom was telling everyone who'd listen. Sophia just got accepted into the surgical residency program at Metropolitan, following in her father's footsteps. I carried the drinks around, invisible except when someone needed a refill. Nobody mentioned that I'd finished medical school in 3 years instead of 4, or that I'd already completed my MBA simultaneously. They were too busy fawning over Sophia's traditional medical path. Olivia. My father's sharp voice cut through my thoughts. Dr. Anderson's glass is empty. Pay attention. I hurried over to our neighbor, a prominent surgeon who worked with my father. He barely glanced at me as I refilled his champagne. Jack, he was saying to my father, Sophia's going to be brilliant in surgery. A natural leader just like you. Not everyone is cut out for the prestigious specialties, eh? He glanced meaningfully in my direction. I bit my lip, thinking about the letter hidden in my room upstairs. The one confirming my position as the new owner of Riverside Community Hospital, after 2 years of secret negotiations and careful planning. At 26, I'd be the youngest hospital owner in the state's history. But they didn't know that. They thought I was just the family disappointment who chose hospital administration over real medical practice. Olivia. Mom again. The appetizers need replenishing. And try to smile. You're bringing down the whole atmosphere. I headed to the kitchen, passing Sophia surrounded by admiring relatives. Oh yes, she was saying, Daddy's already promised to let me assist on his private cases. We'll be quite the surgical team. In the kitchen, I allowed myself a moment of quiet fury. 2 years I'd spent working late nights and weekends, studying hospital management and negotiating with investors. 2 years of being dismissed as the family failure while I secretly built something revolutionary. My phone buzzed, a text from Dean Richardson, on my way. Everything set for the announcement. I smiled, remembering our conversation last week. The dean had been instrumental in helping me acquire Riverside, impressed by my vision for combining cutting-edge medical care with accessible community health programs. Olivia. Mom appeared in the doorway. Stop dawdling. The dean of the medical school is coming, and everything must be perfect for Sophia's moment. If only she knew. I picked up a fresh tray of drinks, my hands steady despite my racing heart. Through the window I saw Dean Richardson's car pulling up. Everyone. Mom called out. Dean Richardson is here. Sophia darling front and center. My sister preened, adjusting her perfectly styled hair. Dad stood proudly beside her, while relatives gathered around like a royal court awaiting their princess. The dean walked in, his eyes scanning the room until they found me. Still holding my serving tray, still wearing that ridiculous apron. Ah, Dean Richardson. Dad stepped forward. Come meet our star graduate, Sophia. The dean smiled politely. Actually, Jack, I'm looking for your other daughter. His voice carried across the suddenly quiet room. Where's our youngest hospital owner? I believe congratulations are in order. The tray of drinks slipped from my mother's hands, crashing to the floor. The sound of shattering glass matched the shattering of their perfect illusions. Hospital owner? Sophia's voice was barely a whisper. I slowly untied my apron, letting it fall alongside the broken glass. Perhaps, I said quietly, we should all sit down. I have an announcement to make. The silence in our living room was deafening as Dean Richardson handed me the official announcement letter. My mother had sunk into her expensive armchair, still struggling to process what was happening. Dad stood by the fireplace, his face an interesting shade of purple. As I was saying, Dean Richardson continued cheerfully, seemingly oblivious to the tension, Olivia has accomplished something extraordinary. At 26, she's not only our youngest graduate to own a hospital but has also developed an innovative model for community healthcare. This is impossible, Sophia finally sputtered. She's been working as a hospital administrator. A glorified paper pusher. The dean raised an eyebrow. Actually, she's been revolutionizing hospital management while completing both her medical degree and MBA. The board was quite impressed with her proposal. What proposal? Dad demanded, his voice hoarse. I straightened my shoulders, finally ready to reveal what I'd been working on for 2 years. Riverside Community Hospital was failing, I began. Their traditional model wasn't serving the community effectively. I proposed a new approach, combining top-tier medical care with accessible community health programs. But the money? Mom stammered. Hospitals cost millions. Remember Thompson Healthcare Group? I asked quietly. Dad's face went white. Thompson Healthcare was the largest medical investment firm in the state. The same firm that had repeatedly rejected his requests for surgical center funding. They backed my proposal, I continued, along with 3 other major investors. We're transforming Riverside into a teaching hospital with a focus on preventive care and community outreach. Outreach? Sophia scoffed. While I'm doing real medicine? Dean Richardson cleared his throat. About that, Sophia. Riverside's new status as a teaching hospital means they'll be offering residency positions. Very competitive ones, I might add. The implications slowly dawned on my sister's face. The hospital she'd dismissed, the one now owned by her failure of a sister, would be reviewing her residency application. But Dad promised. She began. I'm afraid Dr. Carter's influence won't extend to Riverside, the dean said diplomatically. The hospital will have completely independent oversight. My father finally found his voice. Now see here, he blustered. I've been in medicine for 30 years. You can't just. Actually, I interrupted, pulling out another document. I can. Riverside has already acquired 3 smaller clinics in underserved areas. We're establishing a network of community health centers. And, I met his eyes steadily, we'll be reviewing all existing physician privileges. Including yours, Dad. The room erupted. Mom started crying about family loyalty, Sophia stormed out, and relatives began whispering furiously among themselves. But I wasn't finished. For years, I said, my voice carrying over the chaos, you've all treated me like I was beneath you. Made me serve drinks at my own graduation party. Well, now I'm serving something else. Notice that the old way of doing things is over. Dean Richardson beamed. Perhaps now would be a good time to mention the press conference? Press conference? Mom squeaked. Yes, I smiled, checking my watch. In about an hour, actually. I should probably change out of this apron. 1 hour later, I stood at the podium in Riverside Community Hospital's main conference room, my graduation dress replaced by a crisp business suit. Camera flashes lit up the room as I announced our revolutionary healthcare initiative. Riverside will bridge the gap between exceptional medical care and community accessibility, I stated confidently. Our network of clinics will provide preventive care to underserved areas, while our teaching program will train the next generation of doctors to understand both clinical excellence and community responsibility. In the back of the room I could see my family. Mom had insisted they attend to save face, though her own face still showed traces of tears. Dad stood rigid, his surgical ego visibly bruised. Sophia sat slumped in her chair, her perfect hair slightly disheveled. And now, I continued, I'm pleased to announce our first major initiative. The Riverside Medical Scholarship Program will provide full medical school funding to promising students from underserved communities. More camera flashes. Dean Richardson, seated in the front row, nodded approvingly. Furthermore, I added, enjoying the small gasp from my sister, our residency program will prioritize candidates who demonstrate commitment to community health, not just technical skill or family connections. The questions began flooding in from reporters. Dr. Carter, at 26, how did you manage this acquisition? What inspired your community-focused approach? How will this affect existing hospital privileges? I answered each one professionally, years of being underestimated having taught me perfect composure. Then came the question I'd been waiting for. Dr. Carter, your father is a prominent surgeon in this community. How does he feel about your achievement? The room turned to look at Dad. He stepped forward, clearly prepared to salvage his reputation with some diplomatic statement about family pride. But I spoke first. My family, I said clearly, taught me valuable lessons about healthcare. They showed me exactly what needed to change. The reporters scribbled furiously as I continued. For too long, medicine has been about prestige rather than patience. About exclusivity rather than accessibility. Today we're changing that narrative. After the press conference, Dean Richardson approached with a group of board members. Brilliant presentation, Olivia. Though I noticed your family left rather quickly. They'll adjust, I replied, watching them hurry to their cars. Or they won't. Either way, Riverside moves forward. Later that evening, I sat in my new office, overlooking the hospital I now owned. My phone had been buzzing with messages. Mom, we need to discuss this as a family. Dad, my surgical privileges better not be affected. Sophia, you can't do this to me. But there was one message that made me smile. From an old nurse who'd encouraged me when I first started working in hospital administration. Saw you on the news, dear. You served them something better than drinks today. You served justice. I picked up the apron from my graduation party, now hanging as a reminder on my office wall. Below it, I'd framed my favorite headline from today's press coverage. Youngest hospital owner revolutionizes community healthcare. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. To my surprise, it was Sophia. The residency application, she said quietly. What do I need to do? I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Sit down. Let's talk about what real medicine looks like. You're enjoying this, aren't you? She asked, a hint of her old attitude showing. No, Sophia, I replied, pulling out the residency requirements. I'm not enjoying this. I'm changing this. And you can either be part of that change or you can find another hospital. As I outlined our new residency program, emphasizing community service and patient-centered care, I saw something shift in my sister's expression. Maybe it was respect, maybe it was fear, or maybe, just maybe, it was understanding. One more thing, I added as she stood to leave. If you make it into the program, you'll start by working in our community clinics. No shortcuts, no special treatment. She nodded slowly. And Dad's surgical privileges? Will be reviewed like everyone else's, I said firmly. Quality of care matters more than family names now. After she left, I stood by the window watching the hospital's lights glow in the evening darkness. The apron hanging on my wall reminded me of how far I'd come, but more importantly, it reminded me of why I'd done this. Sometimes the best revenge isn't serving cold drinks. It's serving hope to a community that needs it. And if my family finally learned some humility along the way, well, that was just an added bonus.